I was halfway through my morning coffee when my son slid a stack of papers across my kitchen table. The mug froze in my hand, steam curling in the air between us. Ryan did not look like the boy I had raised. His face was tight, his jaw clenched, his voice sharp. "Dad, it is time. You have saved enough. Now you need to help us." I lowered the mug slowly and looked down. The top page glared back at me in bold black type. $400,000. My heart thudded once, then seemed to pause, as if refusing to process what I was seeing. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" I kept my voice even. "Sign," Ryan said. He tapped the line at the bottom with his finger. "Co-sign this mortgage. With your credit score and your savings, we can finally get our dream house. It is a win for everyone." Across from him, Samantha lounged in her chair with her phone in her hand. She scrolled through photos of granite countertops and marble bathrooms. She did not look at me until she found one that pleased her. Then she turned the screen toward Ryan with a glittering smile. "Look at this master suite, babe. 3 walk-in closets. Isn't it perfect for starting our family?" Her eyes flicked up at me, bright but cold, the way broken glass catches light. I set my coffee down carefully. My kitchen, the room where I had fed Ryan pancakes and grilled cheese when he was small, suddenly felt foreign. "Your combined income is $73,000, I said. "This mortgage payment is over $4,000 a month. What bank even approved this?" Ryan's throat bobbed. His gaze slid away. Samantha leaned forward, her voice dripping with sugar that burned instead of soothed. "Family helps family, Edward. That is what grandparents do. They invest in their children's future." "Grandparents," I repeated. "Eventually," she said, waving her manicured hand. "Once we get settled in our new house." Of course. I felt the sting in my chest, the quiet twist of betrayal. My son, my only child, was not asking me for help. He was demanding it, assuming it, as if my entire life of work existed only to fund his next step. Ryan's voice dropped, lower and sharper. "You are 65. Dad. What do you need all that money for anyway?" The words struck like a slap. I had worked 60-hour weeks fixing pipes, crawling under houses, saving every dollar so I could rest in my old age without burdening anyone. And now, that work was reduced to nothing more than a number my son wanted to use. "No," I said simply. The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend the air. Samantha's phone clattered to the table. "Excuse me." Her sweetness vanished, her tone jagged. "No," I repeated. "I will not co-sign a debt you cannot afford." Ryan's face darkened, his eyes, once full of the eager light of a boy who loved learning to use a wrench beside me, now blazed with resentment. "Are you serious right now? After everything we have done for you, what exactly have you done?" My voice cracked sharp before I could stop it. Samantha shoved back her chair, metal screeching against the linoleum. "We visit you. We include you. We actually care about you. Unlike other children who abandon their parents, visiting isn't currency." Samantha, her eyes filled with tears. They came too quickly, too perfectly, like an actress stepping onto stage. "I should have known. You would rather keep your money than see your own son happy." Ryan finally looked at me again. What I saw hollowed me out. Entitlement, bitterness, a stranger sitting where my son should be. "Dad, you owe us this." Those 5 words hit harder than any punch. I pushed the papers back across the table. "I owe you nothing but the example I set. And right now, that example is no." Samantha grabbed her purse, her movements sharp and furious. "Come on, Ryan. We are wasting our time here." Ryan hesitated. For a heartbeat, I thought the boy I had raised might flicker through. But then he gathered the mortgage forms with shaking hands. "You will regret this, Dad." The front door slammed, rattling the windows. Silence swallowed the house, leaving me alone with the bitter taste of cold coffee. I sat very still, staring at the empty space on the table where those papers had rested. The number echoed in my head, heavy and unreal. $400,000. That morning, I lost my son. Not to death, not to distance, but to greed. The house was quiet after they left. I sat alone at the table, staring at the dent their papers had left in the wood. It felt like more than just paper. It felt like a crack in everything I thought family meant. I carried my cold coffee to the sink and poured it out. My hands were steady, but my chest felt hollow. When I retired 5 years ago, I thought I had earned peace. 40 years crawling under sinks and hauling heavy pipe had taken its toll. My knees ached every morning. My shoulders still burned from old injuries. But I had saved. I had been careful. I bought this modest house when Ryan was 10. Paid it off early. No marble countertops. No walk-in closets. Just 3 bedrooms. 1 bath. And a kitchen that smelled of pancakes on Saturday mornings. It was enough. I had pictured the rest of my life being simple. Tending my garden. Fixing things for neighbors who needed a hand. Maybe teaching my grandson how to hold a wrench one day. Instead, I got this. Ryan had always been bright. As a boy, he loved figuring out how things worked. I used to set him on a stool beside me while I fixed faucets. He would squint, tongue poking out, and mirror my movements with a toy wrench. "Is it tight enough?" "Dad," he would ask. Back then, his pride came from learning, from working beside me. When he graduated college with honors in computer science, I was so proud I thought my chest would burst. He landed a job at a tech firm downtown. He called me that night, voice shaking with excitement. "Dad, they offered me $55,000 to start. Can you believe it? I will be making more than you ever did." There was no arrogance in his tone, just joy, gratitude. Back then, he understood the value of $1. But something changed when he met Samantha. She was polished, confident, always dressed like she was walking into a fashion shoot. She liked fine restaurants and luxury trips. Ryan was smitten. Within a year, he was driving a leased BMW he could not afford. When I questioned him, he laughed. "Dad, you have to live a little. Life is too short to pinch pennies forever." But I knew it was not living. It was performing. The requests started small. A few hundred here, an unexpected bill there. Ryan would call with a voice full of urgency. "Dad, my car repair wiped out my budget. Could you spot me 500? Of course I helped. I remembered the tight months when I was his age. Then it was 800 for a lease payment. 2,000 for medical bills Samantha said insurance would not cover. Each time, I told myself it was temporary. That once they got on their feet, they would stop asking. But the pattern never ended. At their wedding, Samantha wanted a designer dress, a grand venue, an open bar for 200 guests. Ryan asked if I could pay for the photographer, then the flowers, then the honeymoon when their cards maxed out. "Dad, it is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We can't skimp." I paid $15,000. I told myself it was love. 2 weeks later, they called from Hawaii in a panic. The hotel bill was higher than expected. The rental car was damaged. They needed $3,000 more to fly home. "This is the last time. Dad, I promise." But it wasn't. Every month brought a new excuse, a new crisis, a new demand. And each time I weakened, because he was my son, because I thought helping meant giving. Now, looking back, I see the flaw. I had trained him to see me not as a father, but as a bank with legs. By the time I finally began saying no, resentment had already taken root. "You don't care about us," he told me once when I refused another request. "All you care about is your money." It cut deep, because what he never seemed to grasp was that my money was not numbers on a page. It was time. It was 60-hour weeks. It was my back giving out in the cold crawl spaces of strangers' homes. And I had saved it so that I would never be a burden to him. I thought that sacrifice would mean something. Instead, it became ammunition. That morning at the kitchen table, when he said, "You owe us this," I realized the boy who once looked at me with pride was gone. All that remained was a man who thought family loyalty could be measured in dollar signs. I washed my coffee mug, dried it carefully, and placed it back on the shelf. Small routines matter when your world tilts. Outside, the garden waited, tomatoes pushing through soil I had turned with my own hands. Sunlight catching on the leaves. I stood there for a long time, breathing the air, reminding myself that not everything had been stolen from me yet. But I knew something had shifted. This was not a simple request I could shrug off. This was a line drawn. And for the first time, I understood that saying no was not cruelty. It was survival. The next day, I heard the sound of tires crunching on my driveway. Ryan's car pulled up, the silver BMW gleaming like a badge of pride. He did not come alone. Samantha stepped out first, heels clicking against the concrete. Her expression told me she had come prepared for battle. They walked straight into my kitchen without waiting for an invitation. The same kitchen where we had argued the morning before. Ryan spread the mortgage papers across the table again, his hands trembling with anger. "Dad, we are giving you another chance. This house means everything to us. You sign today, or you lose us." I kept my voice calm. "My answer is the same." Samantha's smile was sharp. "You don't seem to understand. If you refuse, then you will never see your grandchildren. Ever." The words cut through the room like a knife. I stared at her, unsure if I had heard correctly. Grandchildren. She leaned closer, her perfume heavy and sweet. "That's right. We want a family, but no child of mine will know a grandfather who chooses money over blood." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. He would not meet my eyes. For a moment, I saw the boy who used to help me in the garage. His shoulders hunched, his gaze fixed on the table, as if ashamed. But then Samantha placed her hand on his arm, and the shame vanished. "Dad, she is right," Ryan said softly. "Family helps family. If you won't do this, maybe you don't deserve to be part of our future." The air in the room grew thick. I felt my pulse hammer against my temples. I thought about all the nights I had carried Ryan on my back to bed when he fell asleep watching TV. The soccer games in the rain. The college graduation where I cried quietly in the stands. Now, here he was, threatening to erase me from his children's lives before those children even existed. I picked up the mortgage papers. For 1 second, I let them believe I might fold. Samantha's eyes lit with triumph. Ryan exhaled in relief. Then I set the stack back down. No. The silence was deafening. Samantha's mouth opened, then snapped shut. Color rushed to her face. "You selfish old man. Do you want to die alone in this house with your stupid savings?" Ryan flinched at her words but said nothing. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "I will not mortgage my future for your fantasy. If you want a house, earn it, the way I earned mine." Samantha grabbed the papers, shoving them into her bag. "You will regret this. Both of you will." Ryan lingered a moment longer, his eyes wet. But when I reached for him, he pulled away. They left in a storm of slammed doors and squealing tires. The garden outside swayed gently in the breeze. Untouched by human fury, I stood at the window, watching the car disappear down the street, feeling the ground shift under my life. That night, my phone buzzed over and over. First, a voicemail from Ryan. "Dad, please. We only have 48 hours to finalize financing. We will lose $25,000 if we miss the deadline. Don't let this happen." Then another message. Samantha's voice. Sugary again. "Edward, I didn't mean what I said earlier. I was upset. Please help us. We can make this right." Minutes later, another call. Ryan again. "Dad, I am begging you. We will do anything. Just sign." By the fourth call, I stopped answering. Instead, I pulled out an old notebook from my desk drawer. I wrote down every message, the time, the words. If they wanted to push, I would keep records. The pages filled quickly. Desperation leaked through every voicemail. Some were pleading, others angry. Samantha even claimed she was pregnant. though later admitted in a text that it was a false alarm. I copied that too, highlighted it in red. By 10 that night, I had logged 47 text messages and 12 voicemails, each one more frantic than the last. I closed the notebook and sat back in my chair. My house was quiet again. But the silence no longer felt like peace. It felt like preparation. The following morning, the phone rang before sunrise. I let it buzz until the machine picked up. Ryan's voice spilled into the room. "Dad, listen. The bank already approved us. All we need is your signature. Just one line and everything is solved." His tone was urgent, almost triumphant, as if he had discovered a loophole I could not ignore. For a moment, doubt stirred inside me. Could it be true? Did the bank really approve such a massive loan without hesitation? Could it all be as simple as my son claimed? But experience has taught me that details matter. I dialed the number of the bank listed on the mortgage form. A woman answered. Her name was Janet Hoffman, a loan officer at First State Bank. "This is Edward Coleman," I said. "My son Ryan mentioned applying for a mortgage through you. As his potential cosigner, I would like to understand the terms." Janet hesitated. Then, her voice softened. "Mr. Coleman, your son and his wife seem like nice people. But this loan is ambitious." Ambitious how she rustled papers on her end. "Their combined income is $73,000. Their existing debts are significant. About $47,000 in revolving credit card debt. A car lease close to $900 a month. Student loans still unpaid. The mortgage they want would push their debt-to-income ratio far beyond what is considered safe." I gripped the phone tighter. So, without a cosigner, this loan would be impossible. Exactly. Even with a cosigner, our board was divided. "The risk is extreme." Her words confirmed what I already knew. Ryan had tried to convince me that approval was certain, that I was the only obstacle. In reality, the truth was the opposite. Without me, the loan collapsed. "Thank you for your honesty," I told Janet. "That means more than you know." After hanging up, I opened my notebook. I wrote down every detail she had given me. Debt, income, ratios, risk. The page filled with numbers that told a story clearer than any argument. Ryan and Samantha were drowning already. They wanted me to strap myself to them and sink together. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with another call. This time from my sister. "Margaret, Edward." "What is going on?" she asked the moment I answered. "Ryan called me in tears. He says you are refusing to help them buy a house they can already afford." "Why would you do that?" I closed my eyes. The red herring revealed itself. "Margaret, did he tell you about the $47,000 in debt?" Silence. "Did he mention the $4,000 monthly payment on a $73,000 salary?" More silence. "All he said was that the bank approved them," she whispered, "that you were just being stubborn." I told her the truth. About the debts, the lease, the lies. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know. He made it sound like you were standing in the way of their future." That was exactly what he wanted her to believe. By the end of the day, I had received 3 more calls. One from my brother, one from an old neighbor, and even one from Ryan's childhood friend. All carried the same message. Ryan and Samantha were devastated. I was cruel. Money mattered more to me than family. I wrote it all down. Every call, every accusation, each entry in my notebook became part of the puzzle. A record not just of lies, but of how those lies spread like fire through dry grass. That evening, I sat at my desk, flipping through the growing stack of evidence. Ryan and Samantha thought they were cornering me. They did not realize they were leaving a trail. For the first time since this began, I felt a sliver of control. The bank had revealed the truth. The debt was undeniable. And my notebook, page by page, was becoming a shield. As I closed it for the night, my phone buzzed again. A text from Samantha. "You can fight us if you want, but you will not win. Family owes family." I stared at the words. The glowing screen cutting the dark. Then I took a screenshot. filed it into a folder on my computer, and turned off the phone. The house went silent once more. But this time, the silence felt different. Not empty. Armed. The storm shifted from phone calls to something darker. I first noticed it when my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, gave me a strange look at the mailbox. She usually smiled and asked about my garden. That morning she clutched her phone. Lips pressed tight. Eyes filled with something close to pity. Later, at the grocery store, the cashier who always asked about Ryan rang up my items in silence. No small talk. No eye contact. Only the cold beep of the scanner. By the time I reached my car, I knew. Ryan and Samantha had moved their campaign online. I borrowed Mrs. Chen's phone that afternoon. She hesitated, then showed me the screen. Samantha had written a long post on Facebook. Her words glowed with crafted pain. Our young family has been abandoned by the one person who should care most. My husband's father refuses to help us. Even though he has plenty, we are left alone, struggling, while he hoards his money. Some parents forget what family means. Beneath the post, dozens of comments piled up. Unbelievable. Money can't buy love. How could a father do that to his own son? My chest tightened as I scrolled. Old friends, neighbors, even people from church, all judging, none knowing the truth. I handed the phone back with steady fingers. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. That evening, I logged the post into my notebook. Date, time, screenshot. For the first time, I felt the sharp edge of isolation. My world, the small town where I had lived for decades, was tilting against me. The next day, my sister Margaret called again. Her voice was brittle. Edward, this has gone too far. Everyone is talking. They say you are letting your pride destroy your son's life. Why are you doing this? I spoke slowly, each word deliberate. Margaret, he is drowning in debt. He wants to pull me under with him. That is not pride. That is survival. She sighed heavily. It doesn't matter. People believe what they see online. And that was the twist. The battle was no longer just inside my family. It was public. My reputation was under attack. That night, I sat at my desk with the notebook open and the folder of screenshots glowing on my computer screen. This was not only about money. It was about control. Ryan and Samantha thought shame would bend me where pleading had failed. The phone buzzed again. A message from an old friend named Harold. Ed, I don't know what is going on, but people are saying you cut your son off when he needed you most. Please tell me it isn't true. I stared at the words. Harold and I had fished together for 20 years. He had been at Ryan's graduation, and yet even he believed the story. I typed a short reply. Not what it seems. We'll explain soon. Then I added the text to my folder. Another piece of evidence. I whispered to myself. The words steady. Not this time. I turned on the recorder app on my phone. Ready for the next call. And then I turned on my camera. I spoke directly into the lens. My voice calm. If you have ever been pressured by family to give what you cannot afford, you are not alone. If you have ever felt guilty for saying no, understand this. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are protection. I paused, then leaned a little closer. I built my life with my own hands. I worked until my back ached and my knees buckled, and I saved so I would never burden anyone. That is not greed. That is responsibility. Do not let anyone tell you that saying no makes you heartless. I saved the video. Not for the public yet, but for myself. Proof that I would not be broken. I added a reminder note on my desk. Share this message when the time is right. The notebook lay open beside me, its pages thick with transcripts, screenshots, and memories that no one could twist. I closed it gently and looked out the window at the quiet street. The lamplight glowed against the pavement. Somewhere out there, people whispered my name, convinced I had betrayed my son. But I knew the truth, and one day soon, the truth would speak louder than the lies. A promise to myself and to anyone out there listening. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. The envelope was thick, the kind that makes your stomach twist before you even open it. The return address printed in bold type. A law firm in Minneapolis. I carried it to the kitchen table. The same table where Ryan had once begged me to sign away my future. I slit the envelope open with steady hands. Inside was a demand letter. Notice of financial obligations and family support commitments. The words blurred for a moment. My pulse pounded in my ears. They had taken the fight to the legal system. I read each line carefully. Ryan and Samantha were demanding $400,000. They claimed I had promised to help them with major purchases. They said my refusal had caused severe emotional and financial harm. My hands trembled. Not with fear, but with fury. I picked up my phone and called Elizabeth Morrison, the attorney who had helped me set up my estate plan years ago. She answered on the second ring. "Edward, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" I explained everything. The mortgage, the threats, the Facebook posts, the letter. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she spoke in a firm, steady tone. "First, document everything. Every call, every text, every conversation. If they escalate, you will need proof." "I already started," I said, flipping through the notebook at my side. "Good. Second, Minnesota is a one-party consent state. That means you can record calls without telling them. As long as you are part of the conversation, if they threaten, manipulate, or admit anything, keep those recordings." Her words steadied me. Finally, a plan. That afternoon, Ryan called, right on schedule. "Dad, I think we should talk about this calmly," he began. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. I pressed the record button on my phone. "Go ahead. When I said you owed us." Maybe that came out wrong. What I meant was that family helps family. You know, you have all this money sitting there. We are your only family. Who else are you going to give it to? Maybe charity?" I said. There was a sharp intake of breath. "Charity. You would give our inheritance to strangers. Your inheritance," I said slowly. "Ryan, I am very much alive." I heard Samantha's voice in the background. "Urgent. Tell him about the house. We need an answer today." Ryan's voice returned. Tighter. "Dad, the sellers will not wait. If you do not co-sign by 5 o'clock, we lose the house. Then, find financing you can afford. We can afford it. We just need your credit because mine took a hit when Samantha was out of work last year." "When was she out of work?" A pause. "It was a few months. That is not the point. The point is that parents help their children. That is what families do. By risking their financial security, you will not be risking anything. We will make every payment." "With what money?" I asked. "Janet Hoffman at the bank says you already carry $47,000 in credit card debt." Silence. Then Samantha's voice again. Sharper this time. "He called the bank. I told you he would." Ryan's voice cracked. "You investigated us. Your own son." "I am protecting myself from a bad decision," I said. The line went dead. I stared at my phone. The recording safely stored. Then I labeled the file, "Ryan admits expectation of inheritance. Confirms debt." Minutes later, a text from Samantha lit up my screen. "You will not get away with this." I typed back. "Get away with what?" "Protecting my retirement savings." Her reply came instantly. "Stealing our future. Ryan deserves that money more than strangers ever will." Screenshot. Saved. Logged in the notebook. That night, I sat at my desk surrounded by papers. Recorded calls. Screenshots. Bank statements. Each piece of evidence sharpened the picture. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a campaign of manipulation backed by legal threats. I thought about the years of sacrifice, the hours on my knees fixing broken pipes for strangers, the pride I once felt when Ryan landed his first job, the hope I had carried for grandchildren running through my yard. Now all of it funneled into this moment. A father forced to defend himself from his own child. I closed the notebook. My resolve hardened. They thought they could shame me, sue me, break me. But I had spent my life solving problems step by step, detail by detail. This was no different. I whispered into the quiet room. If it is war they want, war they will get. The days that followed were a blur of ringing phones and whispered rumors. Each time the phone buzzed, I reached for my notebook. Each message, each voicemail, each threat or plea, I recorded with the precision of a man who had fixed leaks all his life. Then the next twist arrived. One evening my old neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, called. Her voice was careful, hesitant. Edward, I do not know how to say this, but Ryan stopped by yesterday. He told me you were confused lately, forgetting things. He said you had promised to help him with the house, but now you do not even remember. Is that true? My hand tightened on the receiver. This was not just about money anymore. They were attacking my mind. No, Helen, I said firmly. I am clear. I never made such a promise. They are trying to rewrite the past. She hesitated, then whispered, I thought so, but you should know. They are telling people you are slipping, that you are not capable of handling your own affairs. After the call ended, I sat in silence. That was the red herring. They wanted to paint me as an unreliable witness in my own life. If they could convince others that I was losing my memory, then every denial I made could be dismissed. I opened my notebook and wrote in bold letters, attack on credibility, spread rumor of confusion. But fate handed me another tool the very next morning. Ryan's childhood friend, Michael, showed up at my door. He looked uneasy, twisting his baseball cap in his hands. Mr. Coleman, I do not want to get in the middle, but Ryan asked me for money last month. He said you refused to help and that he was desperate. He wanted $3,000, promised he would pay me back. Did he? Michael shook his head. This was the third time in 2 years. He never paid a dime back. I thought you should know. I invited him in, poured us coffee, and listened carefully. Every detail mattered. Each date, each amount, each excuse Ryan had given. I wrote it all down as Michael spoke. When he left, I added the entry to my growing folder. Pattern of behavior, borrowing from multiple people, never repaying. Later that afternoon, I pulled up Samantha's social media. I scrolled past glossy photos of vacations, spa weekends, and luxury dinners. There was Ryan with his new gaming setup, thousands of dollars worth of electronics glowing behind him. There was Samantha clinking champagne glasses in a Miami resort. Yet only weeks before, they had told me they could not afford groceries. I screenshotted everything, labeled it, filed it away. That night, my sister Margaret called again. Her tone was sharp this time. Edward, I spoke with Ryan. He says you promised at Christmas to help with their first home. Everyone at the table heard it. Are you saying the whole family is lying? Her words stung. But I stayed calm. I toasted to their future. Margaret, I said I wanted them happy and successful. That was no financial promise. They twisted my words. You sound so cold, she said. No, I sound clear. There is a difference. I hung up and sat back in my chair. Another entry in the notebook. Twist of my holiday toast into a promise. Witness manipulation. For a moment, the weight pressed hard on my chest. My own sister doubted me. The rumor of confusion was spreading. The red herring was working. But then I opened the folder on my desk and looked at the timeline I had built. On one side, their claims of poverty. On the other, their lavish spending. The contrast was undeniable. Evidence number 3. It was not just about what they said. It was about what they showed the world when they thought no one was paying attention. I arranged the screenshots side by side. The Facebook post pleading for sympathy. Next to it, the photos of Samantha in first class on her way to Miami. The message about being unable to pay rent. Next to it, Ryan unboxing a $3,000 gaming rig. The text about struggling with bills. Next to it, their Valentine's dinner with $100 steak on the table. The evidence spoke louder than any rumor. I sat there for hours, building the timeline like a carpenter joining boards, each detail fitting into place until the structure stood solid and undeniable. By midnight, my anger had cooled into something sharper. Determination. They wanted to call me confused, delusional, forgetful. But my records were clear. Dates, times, screenshots, voices caught on tape. I looked out the window at the quiet street. The lamp outside flickered, then steadied. So would I. The courthouse smelled faintly of old wood and disinfectant. I arrived early, dressed in the same suit I had worn to Ryan's college graduation. The fabric was a little tighter now, the shoulders stiff, but it carried memories of pride. Memories that felt like they belonged to another lifetime. Ryan and Samantha stood across the lobby with their attorney. She wore a sleek black dress and a look of rehearsed sorrow. He tugged at his tie, eyes darting around the room. When the clerk called our case, we filed into the courtroom. Judge Harris sat at the bench, a stern woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The plaintiff's attorney rose first. His voice was smooth, designed to charm. Your Honor, my clients have been deeply harmed by the defendant's broken promises. Mr. Coleman repeatedly assured his son he would support them in purchasing their first home. On that assurance, my clients moved forward. When he suddenly refused, they lost money, suffered humiliation, and endured emotional distress. Ryan took the stand. His hands shook as he adjusted the microphone. Dad said he would help us. He testified. He always told us family sticks together. At Christmas, he even toasted to our future home. We trusted him. Samantha followed. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Edward told us not to worry, that he wanted us happy. We believed him. And then he abandoned us. We lost everything. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. I sat still, hands folded, waiting. When it was our turn, Elizabeth stood. She moved with calm precision, her voice carrying the weight of evidence. Your Honor, the plaintiffs have provided no written agreement, no contract, no proof beyond their words. Meanwhile, the defense has prepared extensive documentation. She called me to the stand. I spoke steadily, each word measured. I explained how Ryan and Samantha had come to my home, demanded my signature, and threatened me when I refused. I told the court about the phone calls, the texts, the social media campaign. Elizabeth played recordings of Ryan's voice. You have all this money sitting there. We are your only family. Who else are you going to give it to? Gasps rose from the gallery. Another clip followed. Samantha's voice sharp. You will not get away with this. Ryan deserves that money more than strangers ever will. The judge's brow tightened. Elizabeth displayed the screenshots next. Ryan's expensive gaming setup, Samantha's first-class trip to Miami, the Valentine's dinner with champagne and steak, all posted while they claimed they could not pay rent. Then she showed my notebook, pages of dates, times, and direct quotes. Evidence gathered with the discipline of a man who had built his life fixing problems one leak at a time. Finally, she asked the only question that mattered. Mr. Coleman, did you ever promise to give your son $400,000? No, I did not. I said. The room was silent. Judge Harris leaned forward. Her voice was crisp, unyielding. Counselor, where is the written documentation of this alleged promise? Any contract, any letter, any proof beyond testimony? The attorney shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, many family agreements are verbal. It is common for parents to assure their children, I am not asking about what is common. I am asking if you have any documented proof that this man promised to provide $400,000. Silence stretched. There is none, Your Honor, he admitted. The judge's gaze hardened. So, you are asking this court to order a father to hand over nearly $500,000 based only on the words of two people who, according to this evidence, have lied about their finances, manipulated family members, and attempted to defraud him. Her voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. Ryan lowered his head. Samantha's face crumpled. Her tears real this time. The judge continued. This court finds the plaintiff's claims to be not only without merit, but actively fraudulent. The lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice. The defendant's counterclaims for defamation, harassment, and abuse of process are granted in full. The attorney tried to object, but Judge Harris silenced him with a glare. Furthermore, the court awards the defendant reimbursement of legal fees in the amount of $28,000 plus court costs. In addition, punitive damages of $15,000 will be imposed for the emotional distress caused by this frivolous action. Ryan made a choking sound. Samantha clutched his arm, her knuckles white, and finally, the judge said, her tone like iron, "This matter will be referred to the state attorney's office for investigation of potential perjury. Lying under oath is a felony, and this court will not tolerate it." The gavel struck. The sound echoed like thunder. For a moment, the room was still. Then it was over. Reporters gathered in the hallway. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. "Mr. Coleman, how do you feel about the verdict?" I paused before answering. "I feel that justice was served. Family should be built on love and respect, not manipulation. No parent should be forced to choose between survival and loyalty." I walked past Ryan without a word. His eyes searched mine. But I felt nothing. Only the quiet certainty that the truth had finally spoken louder than the lies. The courthouse doors closed behind me. And for the first time in months, the air felt light. I stepped into the sunlight. Reporters' questions faded behind me as I walked to my truck. The weight I had carried since the morning, Ryan slid those mortgage papers across my table, began to lift. That evening, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee. The phone buzzed nonstop with messages. Not from Ryan. Not from Samantha. But from neighbors. Friends. Even people I had not spoken to in years. "Ed, I am sorry, I believed them. You showed real strength. You did the right thing." The tide had turned. The same voices that once whispered behind my back now reached out in support. 2 days later, Mrs. Chen appeared at my door with a casserole. She placed it in my hands and spoke softly. I felt ashamed when I saw that post online. I should have known better. "After the trial, everyone knows the truth. You are an inspiration, Edward." I thanked her, the warmth of her words more nourishing than the food she carried. At the hardware store, Tom Murphy clapped me on the shoulder. "Coffee is on the house for life," he said. "You showed this town what integrity looks like." Even Father McKenna at church stopped me after Mass. Justice was served with dignity. Your parents would be proud. The community that had turned away now stood firmly behind me. But the same could not be said for Ryan and Samantha. Within a week, a for sale sign appeared in front of the house they had hoped to buy. The deal had collapsed. Their credit destroyed by the lawsuit. The BMW disappeared from their driveway. Word spread that it had been repossessed. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned more. Ryan lost his job. His employer did not appreciate the publicity of a fraud case tied to their company. Samantha's boutique hours dried up. With their debts mounting and their reputation ruined, they packed what they could and moved in with her parents out of state. I did not feel joy at their downfall. I felt clarity. Every misfortune they now faced came not from me, but from choices they had made themselves. One afternoon, I drove past the courthouse again. On the bulletin board outside, the judgment was posted. Dismissed with prejudice. Legal fees awarded. Counterclaims granted. Public record for anyone to see. Ryan and Samantha had wanted to use the law to shame me. Instead, the law had exposed them. Weeks passed. I returned to my routines. I tended my garden, mended a neighbor's fence, replaced a leaky faucet for Mrs. Chen. Life regained its rhythm. Yet something had shifted inside me. I no longer lived with the constant dread of the next phone call, the next demand for money. For the first time in years, I felt free. The support from the community grew stronger. The local newspaper ran an editorial about the case. Mr. Coleman's ordeal is a textbook example of how truth and patience triumph over lies and greed. Boundaries are not selfishness. They are survival. Letters poured in from people who had faced similar manipulation from relatives. Some thanked me for giving them courage to say no. Others asked for advice on protecting their finances. I began speaking at the senior center on Saturday mornings. The first talk I gave was titled, 5 Signs You Are Being Financially Manipulated by Family. I held up my notebook as proof that record-keeping could save a life. The room was packed. Heads nodded. Tears fell. Stories spilled out. I realized I was not alone. One evening, Elizabeth called. Her voice carried a note of satisfaction. Edward. The state bar has sanctioned Ryan and Samantha's attorney for filing a frivolous case, and the district attorney will pursue perjury charges against them. The penalty will likely be probation and community service. But it will leave a permanent mark. I stood in my garden, phone pressed to my ear, watching the tomato plants bend under the weight of ripening fruit. The earth smelled rich and steady. What does that mean for them? I asked. They will carry the record for the rest of their lives. It will follow them in every job interview, every application. They will never escape the stain of what they tried to do. I thanked her, then crouched down to pull weeds from the soil. The metaphor was too clear to ignore. Some growth feeds life. Some growth chokes it. Weeds had to be pulled so that the healthy plants could thrive. Ryan had been my son, but his choices, fueled by greed and entitlement, had grown like weeds. Pulling them had been painful, necessary. As the sun dipped low, painting the garden in golden light, I felt peace for the first time in years. Boundaries were not cruelty. They were protection, and justice, though slow, had finally spoken. The seasons turned as they always do. Winter melted into spring. My garden came alive with new growth. Rows of tomatoes pushed through dark soil. Green beans climbed the trellis. Birds sang from the maple tree out back. Life moved forward. And so did I. The calls from reporters slowed. The letters of support kept coming. Strangers wrote to tell me that my story gave them courage. Some said they finally told their own children, no. Others said they started keeping notebooks. Determined to protect themselves, I never set out to be an example. I only wanted to survive. But sometimes survival becomes something larger. At the senior center, my Saturday talks grew into a regular class. I showed people how to document conversations, how to save screenshots, how to protect their accounts. We laughed together. We shared tears. We built something that felt like community. I realized then that strength multiplies when it is shared. One evening, I walked through the neighborhood. The air was warm, scented with lilacs. People waved from porches. Mrs. Chen handed me a bag of cookies. Tom Murphy stopped me on Main Street to tell me his grandson had listened to my talk and started a savings account. These moments healed me more than any court victory. As for Ryan and Samantha, I heard bits of news now and then. They struggled to find work. Their debts mounted. Their social media accounts vanished. They slipped into silence. I no longer carried the urge to check on them. That weight was gone. I had given them enough of my life already. One afternoon, I found myself back at the park where I had taught Ryan to ride his bike. The swings creaked in the breeze. Children's laughter floated across the grass. I sat on the same bench where I once watched him pedal, wobble, then glide with triumph. Memories rose. Pride, joy, hope. I let them come, then let them go. I could not change who he had become, but I could choose how I carried it. That night, I wrote the last entry in my notebook. Boundaries are not the end of love. They are the proof of it. Saying no protected me, but it also gave Ryan a chance to face his own life. Whether he takes that chance is no longer my burden. I closed the notebook and placed it in the drawer. The battle was over. Weeks later, Elizabeth called again. Her tone was lighter than I had ever heard it. Edward, the perjury charges are official now. They will not serve jail time, but they will carry the record. The court also issued a permanent restraining order. They cannot contact you again. I thanked her. When I hung up, I walked into the garden and knelt in the soil. The sun was warm on my back. The earth crumbled between my fingers. I felt steady, rooted. That evening, I brewed a fresh pot of coffee. I sat at the kitchen table. The same place where Ryan had once dropped those mortgage papers. The table no longer carried the memory of betrayal. It carried the memory of resilience. I raised the mug to my lips and smiled. Justice had been served. My dignity restored. But more than that, peace had returned. The story did not end with loss. It ended with freedom. For anyone listening, I will say this. Do not fear the word no. It is not rejection. It is not cruelty. It is a shield that protects everything you have built. Say it with courage. Say it with love, and trust that the truth, though tested, will stand. I am living proof.